All right, everyone, it's time to talk about Hurricane Harvey because it appears that the worst fears have been realized in parts of Texas where flooding has been absolutely catastrophic, and it's going to get worse. Because at last report, this storm is supposed to stall out sometime, I believe tonight, turn around and actually go through the same areas it's already hit, dump just as much rain on the next pass through, and then sort of buzz up the coast towards Louisiana. Which means that Houston right now is all sorts of screwed. And the mayor of Houston is going to share a lot of the blame, I think, for the death toll, which I think stands at 5 people, and it's going to rise. It's going to be a lot worse than 5 people. They're going to be pulling bodies out of the swampy remains of ruined homes probably for weeks. It'll be like Katrina in that sense. Because he came out and said, oh, just shelter in place. No, don't evacuate. The governor gives the order to evacuate. Yeah, people should get out of the way of the storm because it's going to be the pandemonium. The mayor says, no, just stay where you are, because if you all try to evacuate, the roads will be clogged. Well, you should have thought about this ahead and maybe given such an issuance a day before or something, before it came, give people 24 hours so that people that can get out do get out so that the city services are less stressed. Because the population that's still there that needs rescue is a lot lower. So now they're like rescuing tens of thousands of people. They're getting tens of thousands of calls. The so-called Cajun Navy is showing up with their boats to try to help out. People in Houston are trying to help each other. It's not just Houston. All the outlying areas are flooded. I'm looking at a stream here. And it seems there's not even any real reports from some of these places. Have they been completely washed away? I'm seeing pictures of waterfalls going down ruined roadsides where you've got a highway embankment. The embankment collapses because of the stress of water, and it can't drain anywhere. There's nowhere for it to go, and it just takes the whole road out. Even worse, in this interim period for a day or so, when they're sort of in a lull in the weather before the storm wheels around and floods the whole area back out again as it's supposed to. Even worse, all the fire ants, and this was perhaps something people should have foreseen in the area. Fire ants have a tendency, if you flood their nest out, they'll form a living, breathing raft, and they'll float around until they hit something dry that they can get onto. The whole colony will get together and cling to each other, which means that there are probably hundreds of thousands of these little fire ant rafts floating around the city, compounding the problem. It wouldn't be great if you were trying to wade through some water and you accidentally made contact with one. It'd probably hurt quite a bit, and right now it's not clear that you would immediately get medical help. What if fires start? What if someone's got their generator in the second floor on a porch or something? They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a cookout because there's nothing else to do and it catches fire. Yeah, there's not much. I guess you could bail plenty of water up onto it with buckets, but the fire trucks aren't going anywhere. There's 17 feet of water in some of the low-lying areas of the city of Houston. And that's just Houston. It's the one everyone's talking about because it's the most populated area that's been impacted. This storm will then come back around, assuming their trajectory is right. Literally, it's going to stop, turn around, do a little whirly-cue, and come back. And I think it's supposed to drop just as much rain as it already has onto an already... This is quite possibly we're seeing the next Hurricane Katrina moment. Now this time, I'm going to say something that's going to be... I'm sure that some people take this the wrong way, but please don't. I'm not saying this to say that, well, oh, what a lucky situation or anything like that. I'm not saying it for Trump's benefit. But he should probably count his lucky stars that the mayor of Houston is already raising the ire of the local media. Because the fact that he told people to stay put and not to get out of the way, out of the line of fire, could save Trump's ass. Because he's going to end up taking a huge amount of flack for it. Otherwise, if the coordinated response isn't 100% perfect, as in the government magically swoops in and saves everyone right away, which it can't do anyway, Trump would be taking the blame for every death. He'd be taking the blame for every flooded home. He'd be taking the blame for everything. It would be largely undeserved. There will still be people that are blaming him for stuff, but he should feel lucky, honestly. I know it's terrible to say that, but he himself should feel lucky in a political sense. Because if you look at the polarized political climate A lot of people are already talking about Trump in the context of this storm. Trump did not summon a hurricane up from out of the ocean to destroy Houston, of all places. It didn't happen. The mayor of the city, though, does have some blame for the death toll as it stands. It's going to get larger. Because what about the homeless population? Well, you know, if one of them is dead, you might not find their bloated corpse for a week or two. What if somebody in a lower floor home in a low-lying area, their neighbors evacuated or whatever, they got flooded out and drowned and they're dead, floating around in their home literally totally underwater right now? You're not going to find their body right away. Might be skeletonized before you find it. But people in Houston are trying to help each other. That's commendable. And then people with boats show up to try to coordinate some degree of people moving around. It's not immediately clear. People in the lower lying areas of the city are not going to be able to walk anywhere. They're going to need a helicopter or they're going to need a boat. Unfortunately, the response as it is right now will be short-lived as the storm comes back through and makes the conditions far too treacherous for most of these boats to operate as well. You don't want to be out on a raft and then all of a sudden, 10, 20 more inches of rainfall until it swells up, it starts moving faster, and your little motor or your oars can't keep up, and you get, washed into a pile of debris and can't, your boat deflates or you get screwed some other way. There's a bunch of fire ants apparently sitting on top of it. So it's a true catastrophe what's happening in Houston and in the surrounding areas. It looks like a few of the communities early on sort of escaped full wrath, and the storm went over to the side some, away from the southern reaches of Texas and more towards the east, unfortunately making it more or less a direct hit on Houston, one of the most populated parts of the country. So Trump, as soon as this is over, as soon as the storm, after it goes around another time, is past Houston, the response needs to be very significant and extremely visible within Houston, because otherwise you're going to have a lot more than 5 deaths. You'll probably have more like 5,000 deaths or something like that. It would be, Texas, I think they were talking about dates. I think, wasn't it in the 90s the last time the U.S. experienced a storm of this size? Other than, they can't be right, though. I thought Katrina was well after that. Katrina was Bush era. Something about the 1990s, and then another marker for the 70s, which I believe is Texas getting a category 4 specifically. But, I mean, it's crazy. It's totally crazy what's happening. You're watching the streams. There are a million live streams up, including people within Houston using their smartphones, just aiming it at the water and saying, well, basically my weekend, I guess, ended with a bang. Kind of got fucked up. What happens when people run out of potable water? One of the immediate risks is disease after such an event, because the potable water supply is limited at best. You need to ship in water. It's very odd, because you look at flooding, you're like, well, no, there's water everywhere, yes, but it's all contaminated with sewage, corpses, dead animals, fire ants, of all things, and many other nasty things you wouldn't want to put in your body, oil and so forth. Lawn chemicals, industrial chemicals. They're talking about opening up the spillways. Oh, well, once the storm comes back through, they're probably going to, give way anyway, so we have to open them up, which I believe means certain other locations that aren't currently fully flooded will be screwed in the meantime. I think they're trying to drain the water away from the downtown area as much as possible. So, anyone in the Houston area or anywhere else that's being severely impacted by the storm, I can feel for you, because it's not going to be pleasant for a few days. Unfortunately, even if it looks kind of clearish now that the storm has passed the area, it's supposedly, I don't know by what weird weather phenomenon it's going to be accomplished, but it's going to wheel back around and dump more rain on you. So, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. Half the city's already flooded. The other half will be flooded. Some people will get screwed. The death toll will rise, unfortunately. That's about all. Peace out.